I referred to a document to say that this is not the truth. He shouted, he said, no, he's lying, hold him for contempt.
Wow.
So I called him up on the way from office that, Dad, I've put in my papers. You're not going to work with me, you know that, right?
How do I make it? Crowd niche hai, Upar Khali.
And I remember seeing you Gymkhana one day. Are you a tough taskmaster?
I don't remember ever happening.
What's wrong with you?
Today on Off the Record Legacy, we speak to Vikas Singh and Shri Venkatesh. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Singh and Venkatesh. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. And thank you for allowing us to do this, to open doors to a very rare window in the profession, which is definitely one of the most influential professions in India. In fact, I like to call it the most influential profession. And a lot of these conversations about law, about the legal ecosystem actually happen beyond the courtrooms also. So my first question to both of you, of course, is the lived reality of the profession. And what was it like, and when was the first point in time where you felt that law has entered your relationship with each other, if you look back?
As far as the start of our career or my career, so to say, would be, I would say that people don't ever realize the kind of work or hard work that I've put in my initial years. They only see what I have achieved now and relate that this is how a lawyer is. A lawyer is not always like this. When a struggling lawyer starts in this profession, especially like me when I'm first generation, the kind of problems I faced, I don't think very many people would have faced. The challenge of competing with judges' sons, the challenge of competing with lawyers, established lawyers' sons, and not having anybody in the family or anybody distantly to, support me or, sort of prop me up. And then to come to a new city like Delhi, where we had really literally no roots in that sense, to start and then to make a name is a difficult task. And it has taken a lot of hard work in the process. And when I say hard work, when I started work in Supreme Court, since I've been in Supreme Court from the very beginning, overnight, when you do a new case, you do a thesis overnight. If you are not ready to do a thesis overnight, you are not in the right court. Then you should go to the smaller court, because this is the last court. A client will not trust you unless he is fully confident that you are the best as far as that particular field is concerned while working in Supreme Court. And in Supreme Court, you can't specialize, because every day, every judge, in fact, even for that matter, every judge ends up doing a lot of jurisdictions which he may have never done in his life, either as a lawyer or as a High Court judge. Because the diversity of cases that come to the Supreme Court from all over the country, and with the result that every lawyer ends up doing that diversity. So some lawyers categorize as doing only civil cases, some do only criminal cases, and somebody like me does both civil and criminal, which makes it even more difficult.
Yes.
So in that sense, I would say this has been a very, very challenging but a very satisfying journey. Because if you create everything yourself, and if you make your own mark yourself, if you work hard and create whatever you do, the satisfaction that comes with it is boundless. Nobody can take away your credit as somebody else's creation, or somebody would have somebody can say that I have made this man, or he is because of me. That is, in fact, I remember once when I was Additional Solicitor General, some judges asked me, because I had a lot of fight with the court with regard to the interference in executive matters. So they said that why you are supporting the government so strongly, but when you demit office, you don't realize that judges have a very big some kind of a trade union, so to say, and they can harm you when you demit the office. I said, if no judge has made my practice, how can he harm my practice? If I didn't have any judge to support me in my initial years, when I started in this profession, I don't see how any judge can harm me going forward. So I have taken stands in life. I have taken bold stands in many, many, many cases, and all that gave me that whatever unique that I could create out of myself is because of that conviction that I carried with me in court while presenting a case to not buckle down if I felt something was right. Of course, I had to be backed with sufficient authorities and with sufficient case laws and sufficient reasoning and logic. But if you have that inside you, that conviction, and I tell that to every youngster today, that if you have that conviction, please don't hesitate in opening up. Because if you actually open up, you are actually then creating that window for yourself, which is on the top.
True. And did you ever feel before the black coat came in that relationship had started with law and you and Mr. Singh as well?
So I'll tell you what Dad spoke about is effectively how he has made this journey all these years. Now I'll give you a slightly different perspective as a son who had a father as a lawyer, and now a father who has a daughter who looks at me and my life. So I completely agree with one aspect that people see the end result, but they don't see the journey. The journey obviously has to involve a lot of hard work. So when I was growing up, I did not have my father as much as a normal person would have his father coming back home at a reasonable hour. He would work long nights, conferences, so on and so forth. So we would see him, spend quality time with him, and of course, but it was not a very regular feature. Now, when I'm a father myself, very recently, in fact, last week only, my daughter had usually I try and make it up for all her events, but she had a 4 morning in Shriram and I missed it. And she gave me hell for it. And I was telling my wife that this was such a normal thing back in the day. Why is she giving me hell? Ultimately, as a lawyer, I have to work. But then I realized that no, for a child, this is this is actually something that they really want their parent to be part of their life as well. So I guess to cut it short, I think growing up as a son, you see the hard work that your father brings in, and maybe you understand it at times and maybe you don't. But definitely when you become a father yourself and when you're trying to make your own name in the profession, you do realize that it's not an easy journey for everybody. It's not meant for everybody, in fact. And only if you're able to go outside your comfort zone and, put yourself out, make certain personal sacrifices, does all of this really follow. Otherwise, it would not follow.
But what was it like initially? I want to ask you specifically. Did you romanticize the whole struggle and the law at home when you used to talk about work, or was there ever a point, or that particular point, when you actually started talking about law in the home?
So I can vividly remember 2 instances. See, I'll tell you, I wanted to be a lawyer as long as memory serves me. So I've always wanted to be a lawyer. Therefore, when I say this jokingly in my own office, that I don't really ever actually have to work because I really enjoy what I do. But that has to do with 2 things. So when I was a kid, I remember we were driving across Upar, and on the left-hand side, he showed me somebody's house, which is right bang opposite Upar. And he said, look, I want to be an additional Solicitor General. If I become one, we will live here. So that stayed in my mind that if I become a good lawyer, I'll stay opposite Upar when I was a very small kid. And going forward, obviously, when Dad started doing well, and I was in younger days of my life, so I realized that this profession can change your life if you are, steadfast at it. So then obviously my belief into it got bigger. But what it really entails, I only understood when I started practicing law. I don't think in law school you're taught about what are the sacrifices and how you need to prepare yourself to be a decent lawyer. That is something that you learn only on the job. But that I learned, when I started working with different people. And
so did you at any point in time did not want him to be a lawyer?
As far as both my sons are concerned, I remember Venki was always good at drafting, and he had that argumentative skill. So I always wanted him to be a lawyer, and he also agreed with me. You may want to do so many things and a child may not agree, but he agreed with me. So he took up law on his own choice. I also propped him to become a lawyer. I remember there was a problem with one of our cars, Mahindra car, Scorpio. And there was some manufacturing defect. And he was not a lawyer then. He's I think just in school or last few years of his school. So I remember, drafted the legal notice to the Mahindra people. And not as a lawyer, as a consumer, facing the problem. Because he used to drive that Scorpio most of the time. And because of that drafting, he could get a new car from Mahindra's, which is something very unique, I would say. So I always saw that, that side of him. And The younger one, I didn't want him to become a lawyer because I thought that too many lawyers in the family will not be
Too many
nice.
black coats.
I made him study economics honors, and he was in Venkateshwara College. He was a cricketer also. He tried his profession as a cricketer. One of my Gurujis said that he'll be a very good film star. I tried him to do that as well. But films he never thought, he never considered seriously. Cricket, unfortunately, he was a little, he got a raw deal, the DDCA. So in some ways, it was a blessing in disguise because he himself decided to become a lawyer while he was graduating. And he did a 3-year course after that. So both these boys have done whatever they wanted to do. As far as their initial, working with me is concerned, I remember both these boys have interned with me while law students. And when a conference is going on, they would be watching their mobiles and doing messages. So I then realized that they are not working with me. I don't want them to be non-serious lawyers. If you have to come into this profession, you have to come as serious. This is a very serious work. People don't realize every word that you write, every full stop, comma matters.
Yes.
And if you are not that kind of, detail driven, if you don't get into the minutest of details, then this profession is not for you.
Yeah.
So I realized that no, they have to, and I sent both of them to the same senior, Amit Kapoor in GSA, and I think the initial years that whatever he gave them, the hard time that he gave them, helped both of them to mature in this profession, and then they've done whatever they've done on their own.
Right.
I mean, I may be there as a friend philosopher, or also as a just giving them advice if they want to. But most of their work, they don't even need my advice. They do it on their own, and that is important. That is what I tell to these youngsters, that don't depend on somebody for every decision that you have to take while drafting a petition or doing a research. If you don't have that confidence, you will not make it big. You have to have that confidence in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will believe in you. So this is something which I thought I could, that value I could inculcate in both my sons, because when I joined the profession, I remember Mr. Lal Narayan Sinha, former Attorney General. I was in a job and I had to resign and come, and I went to him. He was very distantly known to us family-wise. So I said, I'm thinking of resigning and coming. He said, yes, of course. So I said, his profession, because there is a lot of crowd, how do I make it? So he had this habit of tapping like this his hand, and then he said, crowd niche hai, upar khali hai. So I always tell this to, whenever I go to a law school, that in this profession, and that's true for every profession, your profession or the medical profession or any business, for the routine, there is a lot of crowd, but somebody who's ready to do something exclusive or something very, bring in a different kind of a value to that work, then there is definitely a lot of scope for them at the top.
Venkatesh, Mr. Singh is a very vociferous person, even outside of the court. We've seen you taking a view on various things, various issues. In court also, the way you argue. You're an institution. And for you, at what point in time did you feel like my father is not just my father, but an institution in himself? Did that change your thought process about him also in any way?
So I'll tell you, the way he operates and the way the conviction that he has, or the way he's able to say a lot of things in courts, that is truly unique to him. I don't think you would have many people who have that kind of clarity of thought and conviction in the way they address the court. So that is something that I know for a fact that I may not be able to emulate in its entirety. Because that is his USP, and I'll be foolish to say that I'm just like him, a version 2 of him. But I do understand that what are my strengths, and I do understand that at times when you are, when the situation so requires, you are to take the bull by the horns, and that is what has helped me. That while I have let me put it this, I have the instinct of him, which is to take a situation head on and then deal with it head on. But I use that only in very remotest and most sparing situations, because otherwise I try and find a way across my own, in my own battles in courtroom, if I could use that expression. But having said that, with him the way he is, one aspect of being his son always plays with both of me and my younger brother is that we have learned to do things in a very honest way in lives, and that is something that we both, I can speak for him and myself both, we're not willing to compromise because we saw him never compromising on that aspect. So while we may succeed, we may not succeed, we may get what we want, we may not get what we want, but we will not compromise on our integrity because we have seen him succeed without compromising on his integrity on all these years.
I'll just quickly go over a personal reflection. I remember seeing you, Varun and Mr. Singh at Gymkhana one day. And when Sir walked in, you both got up, pulled a chair for him, and then he sat. So has he been a disciplinarian? And I would like to hear from you. Are you a tough taskmaster at home as well?
So this kind of an incident that you are talking about, I don't remember ever happening.
No,
What's
but
wrong
it
with
was
you?
great to see because
Not that they are disrespectful or ever.
Yeah.
I've treated them like friends. Literally, I've treated them like friends.
After a
it's not,
certain age.
It's not
After a
it's not-
certain age. I would disagree with that. He was a very hard taskmaster growing up as a father. After a certain age, when we
So
became...
I don't remember them pulling chair for me and all that. That
No,
I know.
I saw that and I remember it even now because it is hardly seen nowadays. People
Yeah.
don't do that, and it's great that they did. So it shows a lot on both of y'all's
I think
way of
Dad was a
seeing
very,
things.
very hard taskmaster when we were kids. Obviously, when we grew up and we were in law school and, when we started dealing with worldly problems, then he became more of a friend. And then obviously the hard part stopped. But
I remember
And he spoiled us.
taking Venki to Tirupati every year.
Right.
In fact, he's named after Lord Venkatesh
Right.
because he was born immediately after Meenu went to Tirupati with my parents. And in one trip, I don't think Venki will want me to make him remember that. There was something which I was upset about for him and some behavior, something which had happened. I don't even remember exactly what had happened. But I said, you are giving your hair to the Lord as a repentance for what you've done. And I made him give that hair, and he never, he didn't, like this at all. And I'm sure, but that also must have played in some way some important role in his in the value system that you want to give to your children. Because I've always told both my sons that there is no such thing like easy money in life. There is the only way to earn money is the hard way. Whether you earn or not is not important, but the way you earn is more important. The credibility that you bring in, the manner in which you earn money is very important. In fact, once I remember one of my Varun's client was behaving, tough, and he was on some fees issue. He said, no, you charge me extra. And I had never seen this ever in my life. I said, Varun, you refund his fees in spite of having done his case.
Yeah.
So, I feel that when your client, if you're done good service, sometimes there are cantankerous people whom you have to deal with with like this. But in my life, people who've lost cases also have paid me 2 years later by a demand draft or by a check and send me money later. So because the honesty that which you take up their work and try to do their best, try to do the best for them, is actually the most important thing in this profession than what they pay you in return for that. So I think that is another very important quality which I say that youngsters should have, that there is no need or desire should never, because this easy money ultimately doesn't take you anywhere. Easy money ultimately goes also the wrong way.
The wrong way.
So
And
it's
gets spent more quickly.
Men spend more quickly
They say.
or spent in wrong things, I would rather say. So it's better to earn something with integrity and with character, so that then you are able to enjoy it more.
And you sleep well at night.
And you sleep well and you don't have to bother.
Mr. Singh, the fact that you said that certain things, when you're a kid, when you're younger, you tend not to like what the parents do, but over time it lands on you. Us time pe, that was
When
said
you
to
have
me.
your own children, then
Yes,
you realize.
maybe that happens a lot. And considering the fact that you belong to Bihar originally, if I'm not wrong, did you continue the traditions that you brought from your region into your lives? And was it easy in a city like Delhi, where everything is very cosmopolitan and modern in a way that people perceive? So was it easy to continue those traditions? Do you do that at all?
So that is I'm glad you touched this subject. This is a sore point in my life. I think one area where I have failed is Because I remember as a youngster, my father used to send me alone to my village to do farming. And that because of that, I had that connect with the village, and I used to, even now I go there every year. I built a house also at home. But I've not been able to do the same with them. So they have not been able to maintain that same connect. As far as cultures and traditions are concerned, my father was in the central government. So we were posted all over the country. So we didn't live in Bihar for a very long period of time. So our major childhood was not in Bihar. So culture, tradition, yes, we follow. But for instance, local dialect, we don't know.
Right.
They also don't know. I also don't know because I was born in Calcutta, then Allahabad, Dehradun, Delhi. So I would, the one area where I'm still working on both of them, and I hope I succeed in some time, is to make them feel that they came from a particular place.
And coming from there, I think it is also important to reflect on the responsibility that legacy in a family where law is not only inherited but also established, as a reputation attached and everything. Do you think it's easier for a person to build a legacy in the profession if they come from a family which is, say, a family like yours? Is it easier for a person in terms of access, in terms of networks, in terms of being able to get work? So how do you see it? And of course, then Venkatesh can add some value to that.
So I'm sure it is definitely a little easier for a second generation lawyer because firstly, you get a lot of guidance at home. You also get a little bit of clients, on the platter. But the bigger danger is that if you don't respect that, and if you become complacent, then you ultimately will be the loser. So you have to do your own struggle. If I'd encouraged them to work with me, probably they would not have been doing what they are doing now. And it's that way. Getting so much on a platter can work both ways. It can harm you more than do
Yes.
you good.
I feel like it is only till a certain point where that it can assist you, and then after that,
It has to be your
across professions,
absolutely.
it has to be you. Especially
Absolutely.
where it's a client-based
Yeah.
situation. They will trust you because of you, not because of a third person.
So my experience, two things I remember very distinctively on this issue. One is his dear friend, Mr. Nagendra Rai, he was former acting Chief Justice of Patna High Court and he happened to practice in Delhi. So when I graduated from law school, I straight away went worked with Jyoti Sagar. So I was already in a job. So after I did almost a year and a half there, I wanted to decide what I should do next. So he was I was very young and he was very supportive. So I came out and I wanted to learn litigation, Supreme Court litigation. So I did work with Mr. Nagendra Rai. So I would draft his SLPs, criminal SLPs he would get from Patna, and I would draft for him and give it to him. So one thing he told me that time was that एक बड़े वृक्ष के नीचे छोटा वृक्ष कभी नहीं उगता है. So you should plant your seed outside. So that also reinstated the fact in me that if I have to make my name, it has to be independent of what my father's identity is, and I should try and look elsewhere, or at least try and practice in an area
And
where
build your own.
and build your own.
space.
So that's how. And then second time, so basically that was one incident. The second incident is a more profound one because of him. So then after that, I again went back to work in a law firm called Heyman Sai. And after I got married, with Kanika and I were both married, I decided to quit so that I can go private. So I called him up on the way from office that, Dad, I put in my papers. Before he could say congratulations and, anything other than that, first thing he said was, you're not going to work with me, you know that, right? I said, yeah, I know I'm not working with you. I'm just telling you that I put in my papers. Said, oh, very good. Congratulations. So that instilled with me that, look, this is not an option. It never was. And you have to always build yourself outside. So for the longest time, I think the fact that I don't even have the surname, many people would not even know that, I'm his son. It's only much later when they...
Mukul Rohatgi didn't know till
about
recently.
2 years.
He's been briefing Mukul Rohatgi for, I don't know, 5-10 years. And he knew only a couple of months back that he's my son.
No, maybe a year
that's
ago.
the way to do it.
A year ago.
Disclose everything later.
A year ago.
So most of his big clients, and we have done cases against each other, big cases.
Yes, I know,
was
I know
representing Adani, he was representing Tata in that case in the Supreme Court. Very high stake matter. And
who won and who lost?
Of course, I won because
there's nothing obvious about that. It's just this is another
just
podcast.
that the law was in my favor.
But what was it like? I mean,
it was very intense.
Yeah,
You know,
that
very
is-
intense in the sense, okay, of course, I was led by, he was appearing with Dr. Singhvi against us, and I was led by Mr. Diwan. So
Right.
Mr. Diwan argued our part in the Supreme Court, and he left. He had to go attend some other matters, and they were in the on the respondent side, they were arguing. So they were arguing something, and I stood up to point out something that what they're saying is factually wrong, because I referred to a document to say that this is not the truth. He shouted, he said, no, he's lying, hold him for contempt. I know for a fact that this has not happened.
Oh,
This is
wow.
all happening in, and I think the judge realized that we're father and son. He laughed. He said, no, okay, pipe it down a little bit. Then he went on arguing his case. But yeah, it was interesting.
Interesting. And when you're home also, do law conversations happen, or do they just stay out of the house?
No,
when
a
you're
lot of gossip
personally
happened.
speaking?
Conversation happens, you have to talk to my wife. She's the one who's the real sufferer in this.
The moderator.
Yeah, she says that we also want to talk something normal. So whenever they are with me, they'll say, Veggie, my wife will say, Veggie, you come and meet me separately. If you are with your dad, you don't give me any time. We end up talking something about
We
law.
discuss a lot of gossip about law and stuff about law, around law.
But Mr. Singh, when you see the next generation entering the profession outside of your home also, do you see their work or hard work, whatever you may want to call it, different from what it was like for you in the ecosystem that exists today? Is there a change in the way lawyers are having to work today as against what you had to do back in the day when you were younger?
As far as drafting is concerned, I think the value system has gone down a little bit, because my senior, Mr. L.R. Singh, there have been instances where I have lost out a lot of cases because he said, you will not go ever to meet your client. So there is a positive, and according to me, there is a negative also. The way in which they work is different from how we work. We work only by the word of mouth.
Right.
If one client goes satisfied that I did honestly work for him, he will tell somebody and I'll get my second client.
Through references and
Through
recommendations.
references. So all my life, I didn't know what case I'll get tomorrow.
Yeah.
Of course, it slowly happened. It was a very slow journey for me. I remember I started my career on a Maruti 800 non-air conditioned. And I remember in my career, initial years, we used to go on holidays. All of us used to go by train to, somewhere in India or to Patna. Best used to be Patna, our hometown, because we had so much family there. So that's how we all started in this profession.
Right.
Of course, God has been kind to all of us now, so that difference is there. But I was happy with that slow pace.
Yeah.
Probably the youngsters, because they get into a much faster pace. So I think their thought process on that is a little different.
Do you think so, Venkatesh, has the value system? Because you've also seen law from very close quarters when you were younger, since you were younger. So, has it been different for you, value system wise? Do you look back and think, Acha, ye, my father had said, now I will not apply this, or I will apply this?
So I'll tell you, I'm a product of the law firm culture. I'm not a product of the litigation chamber culture. So he's a product of a different kind of practice. But between the year when I graduated, how we would perceive our seniors and their guidance vis-a-vis what I see in the younger generation, the only the large difference that I see right now is that a lot is made out about how a senior spoke, as in his tone and tenor. And, people get very dissuaded if the senior is aggressive or if he expresses any frustration out on you, as opposed to what the content of his teaching is. Back in the day, our seniors would say whatever they had to say. We would dissect the anger and the tone out of it and try and observe the learning from what they're trying to teach us.
The positive.
The positive out of it, the instruction out of it. Now I see a lot of emphasis is on the tone and tenor only. They're not bothered about what has been taught to them. They're more concerned about that how the senior is talking. So I don't think in the long run you will learn a lot out of this if you're going to be so
hell-bent on this.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be so touchy about everything that goes around.
So now people go on social media and post.
Yeah, they post about it. I know in our own law firm, so many interns come and join. I mean, I get to hear from the IT side that there's a post about our law firm. It's fine. I guess we all have to.
So I'll give you a very interesting thing which happened when he just got married, and Gymkhana Club. I think Mr. Chibber was the president of the Gymkhana Club, and he rang me at about 10 o'clock at night that the club is there is a notice to close the club down.
Right.
and it would have been very, very embarrassing for the club.
Oh.
So he said, I don't remember, I can't think of anybody but you to save me out of this. I was not his regular lawyer. I was just known to him. So since he called me with so much of confidence, I rang up Venki. He was in Gurgaon with Kanika going to some party at 10:15 or 10:30. I said, Venki, you have to come back immediately and do this drafting overnight because we have to get a stay in the morning. If we don't get a stay, it will be very, very bad for our client. I mean, it will be the club will lose a lot of reputation. So I remember he came back immediately, dropped Kanika home, came home, did a drafting overnight. By the time I got up at 7 in the morning, I had the draft ready. I then sent my corrections by 7:30. By 8:30, the full petition was ready. We mentioned it at 10:30, got a stay for the Gymkhana club. Now, this kind of work that today's youngsters are not appreciating, that is required to be done in litigation. Litigation is like this.
Yeah.
In litigation, if you have to do something overnight, you have to do it overnight, whether it be research, whether it be drafting. If I have to do an argument tomorrow, a big argument tomorrow, and if I'm not ready overnight with this, judge is not going to accept that I didn't have time. There is no question of anybody giving you any time for anything.
Yeah.
If a matter is fixed on a particular day, sometimes it comes last minute also. But most of the time, you have enough time to prepare. But if you have to do it, you have to do it. And that's how the profession works. I think this is something also where today's children, they think of litigation as a job, 10 to 5 job. Litigation can never
can't
be a
be.
10 to 5 job.
In fact, I had somebody in my office who came and said on a performance review, he said that we should, sir, why can't we make a law firm which makes a difference, and we try and inculcate some timing or some schedule by which there's work-life balance. So I said, you don't join the army and say, I don't want to shoot a gun. So if you want to do litigation, you will have to learn to live with the fact that your life will be skewered.
Yeah.
You may have to make it up by maybe taking vacations or whatever is required to be done outside it. But you can't tell a client to not email you at 7 p.m. in the evening wanting something urgent tomorrow morning. If it is required, it's required.
Talking about work-life balance, I know that since I come from the same school as you were my senior, you were heavily into cricket also at the time. You were sports head boy, so you loved fitness in a way. Do you continue doing that? Do you play? What's it like? How do you maintain that work-life balance if you do at all?
So I'll tell you, I don't think I have a work-life balance. I don't think I switch out of. So for me, I enjoy what I do. In fact, I'm at a point where he tells me I should calm down and switch off at wherever point I can, but I don't do it. The way I like to live my life is that I have a routine. I have a very regimented routine in which I take out time for whatever my physical exercise is required, and then I go off to work. I don't switch off. But the only thing that I am able to do by this is that I keep I keep myself available for my clients and my work as long as I'm here. And when required, then I switch off from this work by taking a vacation with my family and my immediate family or my parents or anybody who, and leaving the city, so to speak. And perhaps that's when I unwind. Otherwise, as long as I'm here, we are working because I work across multiple high courts, multiple jurisdictions. So I don't have a Supreme Court summer vacation as a concept.
Right.
By the time Supreme Court shuts down, something else opens up somewhere.
That's a controversial issue, but I want to ask Mr. Singh also. I've seen some of your videos. You were exercising in those. Yoga is something I think that you really enjoy doing. Would you advise the youngsters also to inculcate that habit, fitness-wise? Is it important in the litigation space, and so much of running around is required all the time? Your mind's working.
So yoga is not only exercise. Yoga is a mind and body, I would say training. And yoga gives you a lot of peace of mind also. Yoga gives your basic body parts. For instance, your liver, your lung, your heart, your spleen, your pancreas. You get them at birth. You expect them to keep working all the time. When do you give time to any of your organs? Apart from, badgering it with all kinds of junk food and, late night habits, not giving sufficient rest. Yoga is a give back to the organs.
So it runs in the family, the fitness.
So yoga, he's also got into yoga and not so much into yoga as much as I do, but I'm sure over a period of time he will. But he plays tennis also.
Hmm.
But I have a complaint from him. So we were together in this holiday in Aldera in our home in the hills. And I was on the tennis court waiting for him to join, and he was finishing his meeting. So I had to wait for, I think, maybe half an hour for him to finish his meeting. And I was all the time waiting on the tennis court. So this is something which I feel he needs to do a better work-life
I get this all the
balance
time.
than what he is doing at the moment.
One quick and serious question from both of you. First, I'd like to ask Mr. Singh, would you become the Vikas Singh in today's legal ecosystem if you were young today?
I don't see why I would not. So if of course, God has played, of course, a very important part. I'm sure luck also plays a very important part. In fact, Mr. Lal Narayan Sinha used to say that he's, I don't know, a lot of people don't know about him. People talk of Mr. Nani Palkiwala's Sirvai in Sitalwad. He was equally, or if not greater than them in terms of his intellectual ability and his legal acumen. But he also used to say that I'm a lawyer by chance. And when I asked him why, he said one matter where Sitalwad had to come to argue the Jamindari abolition or something, some land reforms case or something in Patna, where he had briefed him. And suddenly, because Sitalwad's mother died and he couldn't come, and the Advocate General was not ready in that matter. So I got that opportunity, and because of that opportunity, I could rise here.
Right.
But he missed the point that it is not that opportunity which made him rise there. That opportunity may be because of a little bit of luck. But what he was able to do in that opportunity is what really made the difference. And this I tell every youngster, even if you go for a passover in Supreme Court, just to ask a judge to have it later or for an adjournment, go fully prepared with the file.
Right.
Because many a times the judge, if he doesn't give a password and he wants you to argue, that's your opportunity to really rise and shine. And if you do well in that very rare chance that you get in your younger days, that's the time when you immediately get noticed.
Right.
So people don't realize that youngsters go to the court without reading the file and without knowing what is there.
So
And then
मौका बनाना पड़ता है.
मौका बनाना
Opportunity बनानी पड़ती है.
opportunity create करनी पड़ती है.
So I want to ask you, Venkatesh, would you have survived the profession if you did not belong to the ecosystem?
That's a very good question. See, I'll tell you, I don't know whether I would have survived or not survived in hindsight, but I do tell you one thing, that being born in a family which has a lawyer and who has a father who is so steadfast in his approach in life in general, he did prep me up not to give up on failure once if I fail. So I did have the ammunition that is required for me to take on this journey, whether I would have succeeded, if I would have not succeeded this, and I would have done something else in life. And even though if he was not a lawyer, if it's just the way he raised me as a son, as a point, and my mother. But I do find in my own journey, it is gratifying because I have, while being his son and taking the best of what he has taught me and my mom has taught me, I've actually made out my own journey in doing things where people did not know that I'm his son. So I started off by saying, I started off, so if you're in a litigation in a court area, you are very easily identified as a XYZ son, and therefore you get matters, you get briefs, AORs come to you, and so on and so forth.
Within the ecosystem.
Because you're in the ecosystem.
Yes.
But I was never part of the ecosystem. I never practiced in Supreme Court. Right. I never practiced under him. So my battlefield or my trenches were drawn in probably pitching for a large corporate client in remote parts of the country, maybe Ahmedabad, maybe Bombay, maybe arguing in a tribunal, arguing in an arbitration tribunal. So all of that. So there, your name does not matter. What really matters is how competent you are to deliver your clients the result which they seek to derive out of a litigation or a dispute. So that is how my journey has been. So therefore, when they get to know then that I happen to be his son and that I am the second generation, obviously they get the comfort that yes, he has that pedigree and therefore he will do justice to our matter or to our assignment. But that's it. Many a times it happens much later than actually me already being appointed by them as a lawyer. I'm not saying that to say that I'm entirely distinct from the identity, but it so happens that the work that I do, which is infrastructure, This seems to be a pattern that has.
So that is true with both my sons. So there are so many judges who've told me that your son had appeared before me and he did a very good argument. I didn't know he's your son. Then somebody else told me he's your son. And I said, you should not know that he's my son. You should know him by his work, what he does, rather than because he's my son.
Yes.
So they later on come to know, but both his work and Varun's work, most of the time where they go and argue their cases or they, have their battlefields, the presiding judge may not be knowing them or does not know them. And I don't make it a point also to keep introducing them to all judges so that, they may meet them casually. That's a different point. As president of the bar, there are so many occasions where I have occasions where judges, they get to meet the judges. But that's not something which was there. I became president only recently. So that in their initial years, there was no such that opportunity also to meet judges personally.
Right.
So that fortunately is one good thing for both of them, that they've made their own mark by their own individual hard work, individual struggles and learnings, failures.
Because Sanya, I don't think you can't build a career out of being somebody's second generation.
Yes.
You can then you're only going to work as his adjacent, like as junior. Like that's the only way you can be hired by a client to be with your father, because they want the father to come in. Their involvement. If you have to build a practice, if you have to build your own name, if you want to build a law firm, which I have, we have about 60 lawyers, that can only be done if you are able to give us service.
Yes.
And you are professional in your approach in providing that service. That is something.
The first time I saw you, in fact, as a lawyer, when I had also just passed out, was an Aptel. It was a tribunal.
Yeah.
So it was not in the Supreme Court that I saw you.
I happen to go there quite often.
I remember that.
Yeah.
So true, yeah. One last quick question. First, I'd like Mr. Singh to put some light on that. Do you think legacy in the profession also tends to create unconscious gatekeeping?
So that's why I think I've partly answered this question earlier also.
Yeah.
So legacy has equal amount of advantage and equal disadvantage.
Right.
The advantage is, of course, that you get to know the profession. Like I had to be spoon-fed for every sport. I remember having learned a lot of drafting from a clerk in the High Court. I remember Mr. Khurana, he was in the typing pool, and when I went with my first plane to him, and I said, Khurana sahab, dekho, isme koi galti to nahi hai. And he told me about 10-15 mistakes, which if I had not gone to him, I would have ended up harming my client more than, giving him any service. So you have to learn all that, and you have to be ready to learn from everybody. That part that learning they had at home. So any issue where they felt that a particular, how this matter is to be dealt with, that part is all right. But ultimately, if they don't, create their own battlefields, and if they don't win their own small wars in those, and if they don't do their own struggles, this help of mine will not take them very far. So legacy in our profession, and I don't want to name anybody, but I know of a lot of, very few, I would say, second generation lawyers are doing equally well as the first generation lawyer.
True.
And if you were to look at the profession, Mr. Senior Nariman and Junior Nariman would be one striking example. But if you forget the Nariman, Senior and Junior Nariman, I don't think you can count many people in this profession where the son is also doing equally well as the father. Mr. Diwan also probably will be another example. Senior Diwan and Shyam Diwan. But Anil Diwan and Shyam Diwan. But not many such father-sons are doing equally well. Sons having been able to create their own space in the profession. So legacy also has a lot of disadvantages, because if you don't really go to that struggle space yourself, you will ultimately get lost in the profession.
Some quick reflections, Venkatesh, on that?
No, I think
gatekeeping.
I just say I think the question is, the question should be slightly different. Question is, if legacy does create great gatekeeping, but what is legacy? If the legacy is to inculcate strong, straight professionals, hardworking professionals. For example, a father who's a hardworking professional inculcates that same very value system in this child, that like he did it with us, and if my daughter wants to be a lawyer, I would probably do it with her. and the legacy moves on. I think, yes, you will have a legacy of very successful lawyers who would do well in life.
Yeah.
But is it possible to gatekeep? Can I create something? I don't think it's possible in today's day and age. I think clients are too smart. System is too competitive. I don't think anybody can depend upon their own just the last name to have a flourishing practice. I think it has to do with what you bring on the table and how well you are prepared to.
And Venki doesn't even have the last name.
Yes,
True.
correct.
In fact, I was speaking to him before the podcast and asking him how should I call out his name. So he said, I don't use Singh.
So yeah,
No, he didn't have a choice.
Oh, he
That
didn't have a
decision was
choice.
taken by my mother when we named
Oh.
him Shri Venkatesh.
Right.
But at some time, I remember sometimes Venki used to feel a little upset also. that
Yeah,
nobody
anybody
knows that
would.
I'm your son.
Thank you. I mean, it was really nice speaking to you. The flow was amazing. Thank you very much for allowing me to do this. And
Pleasure.
I hope to speak to you more in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.